Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to the Super Game Brothers podcast, a video game and board game podcast that we record every single week. My name is David, and I will be the host today. And I'm joined, like always, by my co-host, Devin. Devin, how are you on this Wednesday evening?
I've never been better. Just a wonderful day for me.
Yeah. Sweet. What was so great about it?
I did a lot of laundry. I did all my laundry. Washed my bedding. I worked out. Ate some really good food. And now I'm doing a podcast, so I'm vibing.
Nice. What's this really good food? I gotta know.
We had some pasta with sun-dried tomatoes. What else was in there? Oh, and then we cooked some ham. I don't know. It was goated though. It was super, super good. It was one.
What kind of noodles?
Books.
What kind of sauce?
They were twisty noodles. I think, in my opinion, though, all noodles are the same. Except I do like shell noodles. Tell me I'm wrong though. Doesn't every noodle taste the same? It's just a different shape.
Yeah, but I feel like the different shape kind of adds some pizzazz. Like you have I don't know, ravioli, for example. That's like a big noodle, but then it's got something in it. So that's a little different.
I like ravioli.
When you say shell, are you talking about like the little elbows, or a tube, or like the big shell that looks like kind of an oval shaped shell with a slit in the bottom?
Yes, the latter.
That one. Okay.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
and
those
ones
good.
Hold a little bit of sauce in there, so you're really getting the full flavor.
Yeah, see? Different noodle, different sauce volume.
Yeah.
But
that was super
hungry.
good. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Sounds super good. I also had noodles. We had macaroni and cheese. But not just not making Kraft macaroni and cheese here.
No way.
This was some good macaroni and cheese. It was great. Cool. Well, I am glad that you're vibing today. I am as well. The NBA playoffs have started, which is always a fun time, even though
that's exciting.
My poor Jazz are nowhere near the playoffs. But we have 5,000 draft picks. So I'm hoping that in the next few years we'll start to get a little bit better. And the playoffs are always fun. I don't even care what team I'm watching. Finally, it's the part of the season where they all play, kind of their best, top tier basketball. So it's a fun time.
I agree. I would say even if your
but
team doesn't make it in there,
yeah,
it's still enjoyable because through the normal season, they're holding out players on purpose. You can't tell me they're not.
Yeah, they are, for sure.
And then they throw everyone in that's fully equipped and ready to throw down in the end season. So that's fun.
Yeah, all the teams are Super Saiyan and ready for the fight for sure. Yeah, but other than that, I don't have a ton new going on. Just another busy week. Lots of fun stuff going up on Super Game Brothers YouTube channel, on Gaming Top Down's YouTube channel where I do my board game stuff. Yeah, I think it's just been a good week. Let's see, what new things have we had? I'm doing some playthroughs of games right now. A couple that I'll talk about in the what we're playing section later. Over on Patreon, we had our couple videos that are exclusive go up. One of them was us playing Marvel Dice Throne together. And then the one this last Tuesday was, what was it? Oh yeah, I went back and played Marvel Snap for the first time in probably a year. Played for a little over an hour. It was really fun. I'm going to talk some more about trading card games today and how I'm not a huge fan, but and I see the allure. And that $10 battle pass staring me in the face. I was like, ooh, this game's kind of fun. I could get a new version of Spider-Woman or whatever card I'm after. And that's just a fun game.
So Marvel Snap is a digital game?
It is, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep, I played it on my PC on Steam when I was recording it. And then it syncs with the version on my phone. So any progress is kind of cross progress. There's a word for that. Cross progression, I think. Yeah, very, very fun. And you can build such crazy decks in that. It's quite a bit different than something like Clash because you're not worried about, like, I need to put this card this millisecond on this exact square to stop, like, his, I don't know, log or whatever is coming.
Yeah.
There's 3 different locations, and each location has some special ability. And you have to, if you win 2 of the locations, you win the match. So you'll play cards to different locations. My deck is based around destroying my other cards. So I use mainly Carnage as the character, and I think Deadshot or Deadlock, I can't remember his name. When I play those, they destroy any of my other cards at that location. So then before I play Carnage, I might play like Wolverine, who when he's destroyed comes back into my hand and gets stronger. Same with Sabretooth. So that's just like one specialization. Another deck I have is all kind of based on Spider-Man, and it's about moving your cards from one location to the other, which you usually can't do after you've played them. So there's a lot of different specializations you can do with decks. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, that's way
Recommend
cool.
Marvel Snap. And even if you just play for free, you can get a ton of stuff. So I do like their business model isn't too in your face, even though you can spend thousands of dollars on virtual currency and booster packs and stuff if you want to. Anyway, so we got some exclusive videos over on Patreon. We hope you'll check us out over there. That is patreon.com/supergamebrothers. And we have some other perks there. You can get access to our podcast 3 days early. You can submit listener inquiries to the show. We have a monthly Q&A. You can get your name in the credits. Just some fun stuff over there. So check us out on Patreon as well. But yeah, been a busy week. Lots of fun stuff. On both of our social media accounts, we have some short form content going up too, which is kind of fun. They are board game and video game kind of trivia videos. Can you guess the board game by just seeing like a single piece? And can you guess the video game from a single sound effect? And I think those are a fun time. So interact with those if you can. Put a guess in, tell me how many points you earned, tell me if you played the game, etc. That'll help us out a ton too. Cool. Well, we're just going to hop right in. We got quite a bit to go over today. And so we're going to hop right into what we've been playing. I've got a few video games here. Devin, I've got couple for you. There might be a couple more that you've been playing. We can get to that when we get to it. But since I've been doing a lot of talking, maybe we'll hop to you, maybe for one of yours first, and then we can hop back to me, and I'll tell you a little bit about Zelda.
Yeah, for sure. The first game I have been playing is Layers of Fear. It is how do I describe it? I thought initially that it was going to be just a horror game, but it kind of is not. I would call it more psychological thriller, very confusing with some jump scares. There was a spring sale. I don't know if the spring sale was on all platforms, but I got it through the PS5, and it came with multiple DLCs, and they just throw you right in there. So I was like in a lighthouse and then had no idea what to do or where to go. I was opening a ton of doors. There's so many doors in this game. It is the door simulator. No, it really is good. Lots of content for about $22, I believe, is what I spent to get many DLCs, the main game. So there's replayability or just a ton of content. Not that you have to replay areas, but very strange mechanics in that game. Sometimes you'll be running away from monsters, which is fun and scary and loud. And they've added what I would call an Alan Wake mechanic, maybe, where you are using a flashlight, and with enough time of the flashlight being on an enemy, they become like frozen for like 10 seconds or disabled, we could say. It hasn't been very hard. There's been a few times where I don't understand an area, and so I end up dying for a moment, and then I'm like, oh, I get it. But didn't die too much. Probably put 4 to 8 hours into the game, somewhere in there. That's kind of broad, but pretty fun. Yeah, it's decent. It reminds me of what is that game? Visage. Very similar. This first person vibe, super confusing. Visage is much scarier in my opinion, though.
Yeah, totally. Visage is very scary.
Yeah, Visage is pretty scary, but there are similarities. Most horror games do have some similarities, I would say.
Yeah. I thought some of the puzzles, just watching you, were pretty cool. Like, looking through picture frames, and I don't know, the way they play with light in some of them. So I thought, though, at least to me, I love puzzle games. The puzzle seemed like the thing that might draw me in to play it more than the story and kind of the monsters that were chasing you for a second. The story seems very vague.
Yes.
Kind of hard to interpret unless you're going to spend a lot of time reading all of the hundreds of documents you picked up.
Very, very correct. There's like dressers or doors or beds or locked vaults or safes or just random notes all over the floor. And each one of them is like a page or two long. And I'm like, I'm not reading all this. I'm not going to spend my time reading all this. I'm going to continue forward. So by the end of like the first section, I had no idea what was going on.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if you like reading like backstory and lore, then I think you'd probably like this game more than maybe the two of us would, because sometimes that can be a little much. I kind of wish they were audio logs that played while you were walking around, since you do a fair bit of walking, but they're not. I think you have to sit there and read them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know that that'll be one for me, but it seems solid.
Yeah, okay. It's decent. It's
okay
decent.
To solid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, Layers of Fear. I think a lot of people that kind of in the video game industry have kind of liked, I can't remember if it's the first one or the second one, that are part of this remastered package that you've been playing, because again, the story's kind of vague, but I think it's based on like an author that is struggling to like come up with an ending for their book, or struggling to create like some portion of their book, and like how far do they go and like neglect their family to find the perfect ending to their book or whatever. So for creative people that like a lot of reading, kind of goes over those topics of how far will I go to create the perfect thing or not. And I did like the creepy kind of narrator played by Tony Todd, I think, who does creepy voices and a lot of stuff. I think he's Venom in the new Spider-Man 2 game. And he was in some horror movie, Candyman, I think, as the Candyman voice. So he's good at those creepy voices. How was it?
I don't remember it.
That's not a good sign. I know
that I watched it.
That's funny. Yeah, that happens. Sometimes I watch a movie too, and can't even remember if I did watch it, because it might be too forgettable. But yeah, Layers of Fear, a little bit forgettable, I would, in my opinion, but I haven't played it, so we'll leave that verdict to Devin. And I think he's
7
got
out
maybe
of 10.
Yeah, 1 or 2 kind of extra chapters to finish left that you might jump back into, but I think you've finished 85% of it, maybe.
Okay.
If I'm understanding correctly, but cool. Layers of Fear. All right, I'll hop in and talk about one. I finished Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, which was awesome.
Ooh.
Talked about this last week. I've been playing the last probably 10 hours of the game with my 7-year-old son, which has been very fun. I was doing that because he has a lot more time. We don't let him play a ton of video games, but he has more time than I do. And so he actually passed me and was farther than me. And so we just decided to finish the last little bit, because he was struggling with some of the end game bosses and the combat, because it would be a little difficult for him to figure out the parry timing and dodging at the correct time to get the flurry strikes and stuff. But anyways, we finished the last dungeon area, got the Master Sword, and then I don't want to spoil too much, but a couple of things happen, and then you do fight Ganondorf, which you would expect in a Zelda game. And man, the last 5 hours of that game are just super awesome. The cutscenes are so much better than Breath of the Wild. The story's cooler. Just some fun twists. There's more content than even you might expect coming from Breath of the Wild. And that last fight against Ganondorf is very, very cool. Very, very cool. again, I don't want to give away like really anything, especially because I know you are going to play it imminently. But I think Zelda Tears of the Kingdom deserves all of the praise that it got when it came out last year. It really is wonderful. And oh, what the heck? I've got a moth flying in my office.
The moth doesn't like Zelda.
Yeah, for reals. Anyways, yeah, Zelda, super, super great. I don't have much else to say at this time, but once Devin's played it, maybe we'll talk about it in more depth if it's something that he really wants to chat about. Maybe it could be one of our advance episodes to have kind of a, I don't know what you call that, spoiler cast, kind of a review of that game. We'll see. So yeah, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I'll do maybe my last two really quick, since I think they'll be pretty short, and then we can hop into your last section. So I've been playing 2 games, and I've been recording my gameplay and putting it up on the Super Game Brothers YouTube channel. Those 2 games are Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, which I did mention last week. It's a really fun Metroidvania game set in the Prince of Persia universe. And I don't have much more to say about it than last week, but I have fought a couple more bosses and gotten a little bit further into the story. And yeah, it's still great. I don't remember if I mentioned last week, but I fought like this big manticore boss, which is this big griffin with like a lion face and a scorpion tail. And that was a really fun fight. And there's some twists and turns with like who's your friend and who may be going to betray you. So it's really, really super. Really like it. It's a solid Metroidvania game so far. I think it might be kind of short. I've played 6 hours so far, I think, because I've recorded 6 segments at about 45 minutes to an hour and a half, depending on the segment. And I think if one of the NPCs is to be believed, I need to finish 2 more areas with bosses. And so if that's it, I might finish it in like, I don't know, 9-10 hours, but I'll probably go after the platinum, which will add a little time, and maybe that guy's pulling my leg. Maybe there's more content. We'll see. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. Very solid if you like 2D games. And I think if you like Prince of Persia in general, you'd probably like it.
Will you be sad if it ends?
If it ends soon?
Or are you ready for it to end soon?
Yeah, that's a good question. If those 2 areas and those 2 boss fights were like really solid, then I think I would be totally fine. I don't mind if a game is short. Once it's run out of its ideas, I don't want it to stay around and kind of bore me for the last 50%.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see. As long as it's solid through that portion, then I'd be totally fine with the ending. But if it does have a lot more ideas, then I'd be excited to play more. So kind of in that area where I don't want it to end based on what I've played so far. But if it does, then so be it. And on to the next thing.
Cool.
Yeah, that's a good game. Recommend that one. And the next one just came to PlayStation Plus Extra on Tuesday. So if you have PlayStation Plus Extra or Premium, you can download this game for free. And I would recommend you do so. It's called Dave the Diver. And I'm not just recommending that because my name's in the title, even though that is a nice perk. But Dave the Diver is super fun. Basically, you play as Dave, who is a diver, if you couldn't guess. And you go to this new part of the world and dive down in the ocean and gather fish. And then at night, you sell those fish in a sushi restaurant. And so the main loop of the game, at least to the point I'm at, which is about 90 minutes in, is you go down and you dive once in the morning, gather as much stuff as you can until your oxygen level runs out. Then you have to get back to the surface before your oxygen runs out. If you don't, then you basically lose everything but one item. So you want to get back to the surface. You can get some cool upgrades, but you have this little harpoon gun on a harpoon rope, and that's how you catch fish.
What's the one item you get to keep?
You get to choose out of
really
all the fish and ropes and wood and stuff that you gathered during that run. You only get to keep one of them.
Okay.
Yeah. So you go down and you get as much as you can, come back up, and then put it on the boat. And then you can dive one more time in the afternoon. Similar idea. Gathering as much as you can. And then in the evening, kind of the third phase of your day, you go into the sushi restaurant and you are kind of the waiter. You serve people drinks, green tea. So you have to, it's this funny mechanism where you have to like hold down on the right stick until you think you've poured enough tea in their cup that it won't overflow, and it will get as close to like this line on the cup to get like a perfect pour. So if you get a perfect pour, then those people will tip more. So that's kind of fun. Amazing. And then you run back and forth, kind of like Tapper, or like, it's not like Overcooked, but it kind of has similar vibe. You're running around like trying to make sure nobody's sitting for too long before they get their sushi. So you have to run all the way to the right to the chef, grab the orders, take them to the people that order. If someone wants a drink, you might, stop there. And then you also, on the very, very right next to the chef, you have to make sure he doesn't run out of wasabi, or else he can't cook anything new. And you have to do this little kind of up on the right stick motion to like grind the wasabi. So you're like running around grinding wasabi, delivering sushi, pouring drinks. And before the night even starts, you have to set the menu for the evening. So based on the fish you caught, you'll set like, okay, these are the 5 types of sushi that we're selling tonight. And going to upgrade the shop. I haven't gotten this far, but there is a locked portion of the user interface there that says like hire staff. So I imagine I'll be able to hire people to help. And yeah, it's really fun. Like a food critic will come in and like, I want shark. And then you have to go and try and find shark the next day and serve it to them when they come back. And that loop sounds really simple, of just like going down underwater, getting fish, then coming back to the restaurant and selling them. But you meet like a lot of new characters, and I've only played 3 full days in the game, so that's 6 dives and 3 days of 3 evenings of being the waiter at the restaurant. And I've already met like tons of new people that have side quests for me. Each new person unlocks this like app on your phone. It's kind of acts as the menu where you like can change settings. One of the apps is called iDiver, and it lets you upgrade your diving equipment if you have enough money and resources. Another app is called Cooksta, and depending on how well you served food the night before, people will, it's kind of like Instagram, they'll post like pictures of their food and give a review like 5 stars or whatever. And yeah, it's just really great. It also has these really funny cutscenes. The whole game is in pixel art too. It's kind of more modern looking pixel art, but very, very pretty pixel art. And it has these funny cutscenes. There's this part where you help the chef kind of upgrade his chef skills, and it goes into kind of like this Karate Kid montage of him like dropping soy sauce and like, I don't know, getting one with the elements before he cooks the new sushi. And there's this other character that makes you guns and weapons, because some of the fish are not nice and you can shoot them with guns, which is a little ridiculous, but it's really funny. And there's a montage of him like making the first weapon for you, and he's like watching anime while he like makes it, and it's really funny. So it's a very funny game. It has like a cool vibe. I'm really excited to play more of it. And if they continue to dole out new things and new characters as quickly as they have, then I think it will stay pretty intriguing the whole time. And as you upgrade your equipment, you can dive deeper, your oxygen tanks are better, so you can stay down more. You can upgrade your, what's it called, your cargo box, maybe, which mine has a limit of like 9 kilograms worth of fish that I can gather before I have to come up. And so yeah, just a lot of things to upgrade and do. Even though the catching fish mechanic is, fairly simple. You hold X to pull out your harpoon, aim, and then push the right trigger to shoot it out. And then depending on how big the fish is, you might have to tap X a whole bunch to like reel it in.
Ooh, that's tough.
Yeah. So has some funny mechanisms, but the presentation is like top notch. I just hit my mic. And all the cutscenes, even like the intro where you first meet Dave and he gets a call from his friend who's the entrepreneur who wants to start the sushi restaurant, and he gets on an airplane and he's drinking his root beer. It's all just like super awesome with cool music, and
I love that. It seems super real.
Art. Yeah,
like that's fun.
Yeah, so super cool game. I'm excited to try it some more. I think at this point I always, on my first segment of a game, I give my like initial review after 1 hour, and I think it's got a gold trophy so far, so it would be in the eights somewhere if it ended at this moment. But we'll see how that can continue to hold up too. So those are kind of the two smaller games that I've been playing, Prince of Persia and Dave the Diver, alongside Zelda, which I'm now done with. So now I need to figure out what my next big game is I'm going to play.
Yeah,
I'm tempted by Dragon's Dogma.
Of those. Sorry.
Yeah, they're good. I think you should try them. All three of them are really fun. But yeah, I'm not sure what my next big game should be. Dragon's Dogma 2 has been calling because of how much I know you loved it, and I don't know, it looked really unique, but man, that's a commitment as well, and I can't lean on my 7-year-old. That game he won't be playing, so yeah, so we'll see. I'm not sure what the next big game for David will be, but I'll think about that and come up with I'm sure we'll find something.
Oh, absolutely.
Cool.
There's always more games to play.
Yes, that is true. It never stops. All right, well, that is all for me. I think you have one more.
I do. I have one more game I have been playing. The game that I have been playing, wait for it, Fallout. The reason being, I decided to download all of them that we had because of the TV series that's out. I thought, I might as well dabble a little bit in this. It's all over social media. I was like, this is crazy. I want to see what this is about. So I started with Fallout 4. Weird game. Very strange game. It's a little bit older. I want to say, what was it, 2015 maybe it came out. Really love the aesthetic of Fallout. This, I don't even know how you would describe it, like a radiated,
post-apocalyptic, but also like set in like the 50s. So it's like no new technology, really.
Yeah, all my weapons are like super rusted. Also, side note, the music in Fallout is top-notch, unbeatable. Truly love it.
Very good.
It sets the tone for the whole game, and I just want to hear it the whole time I play it. But I enjoyed it. I like that you can go anywhere and explore the game any way you want. They don't really hold your hand. You will get missions. They'll be like, hey, go over here and tell this guy that you whooped this other guy. Or you can just run to whatever building you want and put yourself right in the line of fire. In Fallout 4, the NPCs had like crazy good aim. I don't know why. Maybe I was at an area that I wasn't supposed to be in, but they were hitting me hard. There's many times where I was just dying and then spawning in, trying to do the same section, and it kept auto-saving right before I opened like a safe. And so I had to keep opening this freaking safe over and over every time I died. And so I'd open the safe, and the safe would always go to a different point, so it wasn't just easy to lockpick each time. And I'd run back up the stairs and try to destroy this robot. And that thing literally had an aimbot, which was insane. But super fun game, honestly. Very janky. They are getting a next-gen upgrade, I believe, within like a week. I think you told me that.
Yeah, I think it's next week. The PlayStation 5 version comes out. I hope that they will have like save transfer. That would be nice, because then you could just continue on the new version. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I hope it gives enough like quality of life upgrades to make it more enjoyable, because everyone was saying Fallout 4 story is so good. You need to play Fallout 4. Fallout 4 is my best friend. I love Fallout 4. So everyone's like, you need to play this. I was like, I can't even aim at an enemy because of this dead zone / input lag issue with the game. It would take me like 3 full seconds to really target in on an enemy. And I was like, man, that's rough. Especially when there's 12 people in the room all shouting at you and you need to take them each out. But I don't know. It was a fun game. It really, really was. But the game did end up crashing. And so instantly, we were streaming these, and instantly we just switched to Fallout 76. And my freaking goodness. I hopped in Fallout 76, and it has to be like at least 60 frames per second, I imagine. Because
I would think so.
It was a night and day difference as far as how it felt. I want to say this one came out 2018, maybe? I don't know. But either way, felt way better. the graphics were better. There were so many settings that you were able to adjust in Fallout 76, not just in audio and visuals, but just in controls, in everything. It just felt so much newer that even if the story isn't as good, it was so much more enjoyable to play. They had BitBoy music, and they may have had this in Fallout 4 as well, but they had BitBoy music in Fallout 76. So we just had this like 1950s type music playing the whole time we played the game, which was such a fun vibe. And it's like open world, and you will also run into online players in the game, which I think was fun. You can do it in pacifist mode, I think they called it, where the other online players can't just run up and shoot you. But chat was like, you got to turn that off. So we did that. We still haven't been destroyed by any other online players. Everyone's been chill so far. But we're going to dive way more into that game. I'm super, super excited. Truly. I didn't know I would like a Fallout game that much, but looking forward to Fallout 76 for sure. I think that's about all I've been playing lately.
Yeah, it's interesting being someone who I played Fallout 4 when it first came out, and I played probably 20 hours. I didn't finish it. I thought it was fun, but it was a little overwhelming with, like you mentioned, how open world it was, and you can explore, but if you do, you're going to find areas you're definitely not ready for. Whereas like a game like Zelda that I talked about a little bit, even if you're not ready for an area, you can kind of brute force your way through it if you're just good at the combat. Whereas in Fallout, I mean, you get like shot once by an enemy with a gun that's way over leveled compared to you, and will blow like your arm or leg off and you're just dead.
Very true. Yes.
Yeah, a little violent. So I kind of fell off of that one, but I know that I think Fallout 3 and New Vegas are kind of the most loved ones, but I think story-wise, a lot of people do like Fallout 4, and 76 was kind of like really dumped on when it came out for like not having great story, and I think a lot of the like social and multiplayer elements were not fully fleshed out perfectly either. But yeah, playing it like Fallout 4 came out in 2015, so you're 9 years later, and Fallout 76 was 2018, so you're 6 years later. So playing both of them kind of back to back at such a long period after they came out, that's an interesting perspective. And how, 76 with 6 years of development and new content and multiplayer kind of balances, it might just be like a easier starting point, especially if you don't like playing at 30 frames.
I don't,
which
at
can
all.
Be tough. Yeah,
it's the worst.
Yeah. So yeah, I hope that the PS5 update for Fallout 4 can maybe at least let you finish that game and feel like, okay, I at least know what the story was, and then you'll be able to compare that a little better maybe. Because going in, I would feel the same way. 76 would probably just be way more enjoyable to play just because it's smoother. Cool. Fallout, that's a fun series. We'll talk a little bit more about Fallout and the TV show in particular at the end of the show today, but that is the video games we've been playing. I think since I've finished up Zelda, we'll have some new games next week to talk about too, and we'll hear what progress we've made on Prince of Persia, Dave the Diver, Fallout. Devin will probably finish Layers of Fear, maybe start a new game too, so we'll see what that looks like next week. For the board games that we've been playing, I've got a couple, and then a couple that Devin and I played together. And maybe let's start with the ones we played together. How about? So
perfect.
For our Patreon, the next advance episode is what we call them, the exclusive videos for our patrons, is a video of us playing two board games that I really love. They are kind of what I would call dexterity kind of bar games, so something similar to like darts or shuffleboard, or can't think of another great example at the moment, but I kind of put them in that category a little bit more than I put them in board game category, but they do sit on a table and are a lot smaller than like a huge dartboard or a pool table or a shuffleboard, especially. Those are humongous. So the two games that we played were Crokinole and Clask, And they're so big, I'm not going to do show and tell and show them. But Crokinole, maybe I'll put an image of them in the podcast. So for video viewers, you can at least see a picture of them there. Crokinole is a game that was made in Canada, I think a couple hundred years ago, and you play it on a round board that I think is about 28 or 30 inches in diameter. So it's kind of a big round flat board. And in the center is a little hole, maybe an inch and a half in diameter. And then around that hole are different rings that spread out from that hole. And each player has 8 discs. They're little circular but flat on top and bottom pieces, and you take turns flicking them on the board. So it's a flicking game. I can't think of a great comparison to other flicking games, but it's a flicking game. And you sit across from each other, and you flick from the edge of the board on your side, and your goal is to get as many points in a round as you can. If you make one of your discs in that center hole, then that's a locked in 20 points, and you'll take it out of the center hole and put it kind of in this holder on the side of the board to show that, okay, I've got 20 points. The rest of your discs can be either in the 15, 10, or 5 point areas, depending on where they are on the board. The closer to the center, the more points. But if you have discs on the board, your opponent has to hit one of your discs on their turn. And so it's kind of a play for control of the board state. If there are no discs on, then you shoot for the 20 hole, and you want to make as many of those as you can to get the locked in 20 points. But unless you're super, super good, there's going to be most turns where your opponent has some pieces on. So there's also, I guess I should explain this, around the 15-point circle is, I don't remember how many, maybe 10 or 12 little pegs that kind of block some of the pathways from one side of the board to the other, and that's important too. And so to try and control the board, I might try and hide one of my discs behind a peg to make it harder for Devin to hit, because he has to try and hit it, and if he doesn't, he loses that disc for the round. I might try to ricochet one of my flicks off of one of Devin's into the 20 hole. If you can pull that off, it's a really good feeling, but pretty difficult. Crokinole is a really awesome game. Kind of the difficult part about it is because it's such a big board, and most of them are made out of solid wood. I have kind of a mid-range board. It's made out of laminate instead of solid like oak or whatever else they use. And I think my board was like $250. And if you want like a solid wood one, you might be $400 or $500. So the barrier to entry with Crokinole is the cost for sure. But man, I have not found a game that has gone over better with everyone I've played it with. I think I track all of the board games I have and how many times I've played them in this app. And I think I've got like 120 matches of Crokinole played. And so even though the board was kind of expensive, yeah, it was probably not very fair. I did beat you a little bit, but you played well. It had been a few months since you had played. So it wasn't like a extremely fair playthrough, but now that I've kind of explained the rules a little bit, Devin, what are your thoughts on Crokinole?
I would like to know what you just touched on. This is not just like cheap plastic scraping against plastic. This is almost like, I want to say the board is waxed, is it not?
Yeah, I wax it pretty frequently with car wax.
This is like very smooth movements, very precise. You're just flicking with your finger. It's very hard to get a very straight flick. You've got to be perfectly centered. You can't stand up off your chair, that type of thing. So you can tell if someone else has practiced this game. I feel like it was pretty simple for you to just absolutely destroy me in this game. But very, very fun. Like, you want to get better. It's very fast. It's easy to get your pieces back on your side. You can just flick them around the board back to the other player. You're getting through rounds quickly. The scoreboard is super cool. It's made out of wood, and the little pieces insert inside. You have one based on your color for your team. And so you know how many points you have, how many rounds you've won, and you just go. It's like it's like first person to win 4 games in a row or something is how we were playing it. or 4 games total. Something like that, right?
Yep. If you win a game, you get 2 points, and you can play first to 7, first to 9, first to 11. I think we played first to 7 in both of our games.
Yeah, and you get 2 points for winning. Yeah, so to get past 7, you got to win 4 times.
Yep.
But I love that game. I think it's super fun. The little bumpers in the center are basically surrounded by like a thick rubber band material, so they'll bounce off the center. You're trying to slot it through really difficult areas. I would say overall fantastic game. Like 10 out of 10, high skill. You can put a ton of practice in and get extremely good at it. You can get special colored, nicer, what did you call them, discs?
Yeah, most people call them discs or buttons.
Okay, yeah.
Either one.
Super, super good game, in my opinion. That's about all I have to say about it, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, Crokinole is definitely a 10 out of 10 for me. I think it's just amazing. The more you play with the same person, too, it just gets more and more kind of like a head game, and you both continue to get better and kind of figure out how people play. I've even watched some professional Crokinole matches online. If you've got a spare 10 minutes and want to learn about Crokinole, and now that I've kind of explained the rules, and watch some of like the World Championship series of Crokinole, they are amazing. And man, they all have different strategies. There's some people that even on their entry shots, when you generally shoot for the 20, won't do that. They'll purposely shoot behind a peg, hoping that you'll miss. And man, there's so many strategies you can do with kind of that simple framework of those rules. When there's nothing on the board, you shoot for the 20. When there is stuff on the board, you have to hit one of your opponents. Even in that simple rule set, there's a lot of kind of flexibility for how you play. Very cool game. This next one I also rate a 10 out of 10 as like a great like game to play. This one you could even have in like a party setting because it's so fast. I think Crokinole matches usually run about 10-15 minutes. Clask is the next game we're going to talk about, and it probably takes 3 to 5 minutes. And so you could rotate players in, have a little tournament, and basically Clask is air hockey without the big air hockey table and without the air flowing up from the table. So it's a wooden table or board. It's a lot smaller than Crokinole as well. I don't know that I have an example. I would say it's probably, 18 to 24 inches tall off the table, probably the same across, and then depth is probably, 36 inches maybe. I don't know. It's not huge, and it almost fits on one of my board game shelves that I have behind me. I have it sitting up on top of the cabinet, but it's surprisingly smaller than I thought it might be when I ordered it. And it's about $50. So a lot cheaper than something like Crokinole. I think it has a little less high of like a skill ceiling, whereas it's more of just like crazy raucous fun, whereas Crokinole is like really, I could get really skilled at this, and like you mentioned, somebody that's played a lot can kind of crush somebody else. But Clask is kind of not that. How it works, similar to air hockey, you're trying to score this yellow ball instead of a puck, but a little yellow ball in your opponent's goal, which is a little circle on their cutout on their side of the board. Instead of an air hockey, what do they call it? The thing you hold, handle, smacker, puck.
Something.
It's not the puck. I don't know what they call the red thing you hold on to. Instead of one of those, you have this little pawn piece, probably half an inch in diameter and stands up pretty tall, that sits on top of the board. And then you have a very strong magnet piece that you hold in your hand and put underneath the board. So you control your pawn piece from underneath the board. And by moving it around, you can smack that yellow ball. And if you get it in your opponent's goal, you score a point. First person to 6 points wins. There's a couple interesting wrinkles, though. If you ever put your own pawn in your own goal, so you accidentally move your hand too far towards you into the center, into your own hole, then your opponent wins that point. If you ever lose control of your pawn and it flies to the other side of the board to where your opponent can magnet it together with their pawn, then your opponent wins the point. And then the most interesting wrinkle, in my opinion, is since all these pieces are pretty strong magnets to be able to control the pawn from the bottom of the table, there are 3 little white magnet pieces called biscuits that sit right on the border, kind of on the center line between one player's section of the court of the table and the other player's section. And if you get too close to those, they will magnet and stick to your pawn. You can get one of them and it's not a big deal, but if you get 2 of them stuck to your pawn, you lose the point. Your opponent wins it. And those biscuits are just a lot of fun. You can hit the yellow ball trying to make it hit the biscuit, bounce that biscuit onto your opponent's pawn. If like your opponent gets a couple biscuits on your side of the board, then you're really hampered in like where you can move your pawn, and so he might purposely hit the ball over there towards them. And so those kind of little wrinkles, again, kind of just add enough to the air hockey kind of formula to make it fun for me. Clask is really, really wonderful. I have the 2-player version that's just head-to-head, one-on-one. They do make a bigger table that's round instead of rectangular, where you play 2-on-2. So they have 2 versions of Clask, but I think the more well-loved one is the one-on-one version. So yeah, we played a few games of Clask as well. How does Clask compare, in your opinion, Devin, to Crokinole?
It's not as expensive, I could tell, right?
Yeah.
Super, super fun. I thought it was funny, like you were saying, to use the biscuits as, like, if I'm going to shoot the ball towards your net, kind of make it hit a biscuit and send it toward you, and then you're forced to not be able to play defense in that line of sight for a moment because you don't want to get a biscuit on your pawn. So I like that it's not just hit back and forth, until it goes in.
Yeah.
There's a little more to it. Like, we were fake hitting a lot of times. You would fake the shot, and have your pawn near the ball and try to get a different angle, and then use the biscuits to really strategize. Like, it came down to the wire on one of those games. I think we had like an overtime match nearly. But I mean, I would say it's almost just as fun. My one thing is I kind of wish the game itself was slightly higher off the table, and they could get the feet maybe a little more out of the way. I noticed my arm being under there. Sometimes I'd hit the board and the whole board would like slightly move. But I mean, once again, 10 out of 10 as far as like the fun scale. Super good game.
Yeah, very, very fun. I think they do have like a Clask, I don't know if you'd call it a professional championship, but Clask tournaments as well. And in those, I think both players with the hand that they're not holding the magnet with, they hold on to one of the legs. So both players are holding one of the legs down to kind of keep the board more stable. I'm pretty sure that's smart. What they do, but yeah, it is a little tiny in there. Which I think is one of its selling points, that it isn't huge, doesn't take up a whole room worth of space. You can just play it on a dinner table or a coffee table.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you have really big, biceps and huge arms like Devin, then it can be a little hard to get your pawn under the table or your arm under the table to control the pawn. Yeah, but anyways, look out for that video on our Patreon. That will be up next Tuesday for our $5 patrons, and the following Friday for our $2 and more patrons. Yeah, both of those games rock. They are great, especially if you don't like complex board games, but just want something that is fun and that everyone can play. I've played Crokinole and Clask both with my 7-year-old and my 5-year-old, and they both love them too. So I really think it's kind of a hit for families, and anyone of any age could play them. Great games. All right, I'll talk about my 2 that I've been playing recently as well. First up, I've been playing Proving Grounds, which is this game here. I do have some show and tell for this one. It's a 1-player dice game from Renegade Game Studios in their Solo Hero series. I have 3 games in their Solo series, and man, I think they're really, really great games. This one is a dice game where you play kind of as this gladiator lady, and that's a bad video we're getting through my webcam, but you play and there are 6 other kind of gladiator enemies that surround you, and you have to roll dice. Oh, I actually bought Devin a copy as well. Look at that. Double show and tell.
Look at this.
Look at us. Who'd have thought? But yeah, you roll a bunch of dice, and the idea here is it's a real-time game, so you have 1 minute to re-roll these dice as many times as you want, but you can only re-roll dice if you have multiple of the same number. So I think there's probably like 10 dice that you end up rolling, so most of the time you're going to have a bunch of a single number. But if I only had 1 3, I can't re-roll that until I get another 3. And each of the 6 different gladiators surrounding you have like different dice that you need to roll to hurt them. But you can only hurt them if you have more than one, generally like 3 or 4 of that specific dice value to hurt them. And so by re-rolling your sets that you do have multiple of to try and get rid of your single dice, you're kind of hampering how much damage you can do. And you've only got a minute to do so. So it's a little bit of high stress. Has a really great app that like tracks the time and tracks how many enemies you've defeated, so that you don't have to track that. So I just have that running on my iPad when I play. But it's a very fun game if you like kind of stressful dice rolling. And it's tricky because you can't roll those single dice. It's hard sometimes not to take damage. And so you need to defeat a certain number of those other gladiators before your character dies. And I think you can take like 7, I can't remember exactly, 7 damage before you die. And each enemy, I think, can take 2 before they die. And you have to defeat, like, I think you can play different difficulty levels, but maybe 7 or 8 different enemies. Really fun game, especially if you want like a solo game that you can play in 20 minutes. Sometimes solo games are a little too long for me. I love long board games. But I think for a board game to be long, I want to play it with other people. It's kind of a weird balance there. Not always, but that's usually the case. I want a solo game to be something I can play quickly. This game also has 6 mini expansions that you can add in, that add like different gladiators in or different restrictions. One of them adds like a dragon character, like kind of character that I haven't played with this expansion, but I think the dragon kind of works alongside you to help you. But then the enemies become stronger. There's also an expansion where I think you have this dial you add to the center of the board, and it shows like which direction your character's facing, and then you can only hurt the enemies the direction you're facing, as opposed to in the base normal game to being able to damage any of the 6 surrounding you. So you've got quite a bit of variability there if you wanted to play it and maybe up the difficulty a bit there. So that's Proving Grounds. It's a really fun game. I don't feel like that one gets as much love as some of the other games in Renegade solo series. What's the other one called? Warp Drive, maybe? Can't remember. It's on my shelf back there, but it's a very fun one as well in their series that gets a lot of love, and it's really great, so I get it. But Proving Grounds is also a really good one, and I think you can find it on pretty good sales as well, $20 or so. So that's Proving Grounds. The next game that I played this last week is a big, huge game. I'll show and tell just for a second because the box is so big. I don't know that I will be able to show it super well, but it is called Skyrise, and yeah, it doesn't really fit on the screen like at all, but it's a big game about building buildings on this floating island, kind of BioShock Infinite vibe a little bit, except for no things are trying to kill you, so not really like that at all. But in the game, you are placing out your buildings on these floating islands with the goal of placing your buildings in specific places, because when you place one there, you get to pick up this token from the neighborhood you build a building in. And then at the end of every round, whoever has the most buildings on one of the islands of kind of a the tallest variety will win certain points. So you're trying to put them in specific places to win points. The buildings are also really cool, and kind of the unique thing of this game is it's an auction system. So I pulled out a couple buildings. You can see here blue player and green player buildings. They're two of their tall buildings. And on the bottom of the buildings are numbers. And so when a turn first starts, someone will place a building upside down on a location with that number showing face up. And then from that location, the next player decides if they want to outbid you or not. And if they do, they have to play a building of a higher number than you played. And then they'll put it in an area adjacent to the neighborhood that you put yours in. And so the auction just kind of continues around and around the table and kind of snakes around the board as people put their bid in a neighborhood next to the last bid and then next to the last bid. And then if you pass, then you can't get back in the bid. And once either no one can outbid you or nobody wants to, then you win that location, flip your building right side up, take whatever is on that neighborhood, and every other building that was part of that bid is removed and the players get them back. So only the winning bid stays on the board. So that's how the new buildings come out, is through that kind of unique auction. And I haven't played a game with that kind of unique mechanism. It's really kind of interesting. The game is a little more puzzly than I thought it would be, because you have to think about, okay, if Devin outbids me here, then they might head that direction with their bid, and then the next player might head that direction with their bid. I really want the red locations because I have a secret objective card that gives me 10 points at the end of the game if I have buildings on at least 4 red neighborhoods, and so I hope they go this way. If they do, I might up the bid. You have to keep all of your pieces in front of you so everyone knows like what buildings you have left. So everyone knows if you can outbid them or not. You just have a little bit of secret information in your own personal objectives. So they don't know exactly what colors you're focusing on. And the game plays in 2 kind of eras. After someone has played all 7, I think, of their beginning buildings, then all the players get, I think, 7 more of their era 2 buildings that have different values. And they also get their, it's called your wonder piece, which is it's a big kind of special piece that whenever you play it, you automatically win that auction. And each wonder also has a special power, and you get to decide what that special power is going to be. So at the beginning of the game, you're given 3 cards that are possibilities for what your wonder special power could be, and then at the end of the first era, you have to choose one of those 3 that you commit to for the rest of era 2. And yeah, like I said, at the end of each era, you score who has the tallest buildings on each island gets 5 points, and then there will be some other public objectives like have at least 3 buildings by lakes or by the blimps or whatever. So a lot of spatial reasoning and trying to figure out how to get your pieces there without giving too much information away, and that auction is pretty cool. They make like a standard retail version of the game that has wooden pieces and just a regular wooden board. I got the fancy collector's premium edition, where it has a wooden it has a cardboard a cardboard board in the center that has clouds on it, and then those 4 floating islands are actually these like big elevated by maybe an inch pieces that are all, this nice sculpted plastic. And then all of those buildings are sculpted models as well that have this nice darkening wash on them, and it looks really cool with all. I'm
looking at it right now. I was about to note on that. I was gonna say the pieces in this game, the colors they chose are all so unique, and the aesthetic is beautiful, and each team's buildings are actually different. They're not just the same sculpts. Looking. Yeah, different sculpts. Really, really pretty game. I want to play it. It sounds strategic.
Yeah, it is, but it's not so much that it crushes your brain. I think you can play it in an hour to an hour and a half. So it's kind of a, medium level game, not too intense. Yeah, very fun. I've only played it once so far since getting it last week and really liked it. I think at this point I'd probably give it like an 8.5 or a 9, and we'll see if that goes up or down with more plays. I think the thing that would maybe be holding it back is that auction is a little hard to like read the other players. Like, are you going to outbid me? I really want this green neighborhood, and I think you're going for this, but I don't know for sure. But I think if you took too much of that out of the game, it would be something that I don't love. It's called perfect information. And you don't usually want perfect information in games. Perfect information is something like chess, right? Where every bit of data and information is on the table. And so if you had a perfect brain, like a computer, you can perfectly figure out what the best move is. And so having some hidden information or even some luck in games is important because you don't want to have perfect information. But
what's a good percentage of perfect information? 10%? 20%?
Yeah, that's a good question. I generally like, games that are medium to medium heavy Euro games that usually do have a lot of information on the board where you can kind of see like, okay, Devin's best move is to do this, and David's best move on his turn is to do this. But there's got to be at least a little bit where everyone has a chance of winning, or else we run into the crokinole problem where whoever has just played the game the most will always win. And that's not fun for new players. So you've got to have a little bit of that where someone can do something unexpected or have a lucky die roll or have a secret objective card that you didn't expect. So I'm glad that there is some of that in the game. I just need to kind of fully flesh out my thoughts on that. But Skyrise is really cool. I do have a unboxing video on my gaming top-down YouTube channel. If you want to check that out, I filmed probably like 8 to 10 minutes of me taking the game out of the box, showing a lot of the pieces, all the cards, how the board snaps together and everything. So if you want to see some of those fancy pieces that don't tell my wife but cost a little bit of money, then you can check that out on the gaming top-down YouTube channel. But that is Skyrise. Fun game so far. Cool. Well, those are the board games we've been playing this last week. And I feel like between those board games and video games, that was like a solid variety. So proud of us. Look at us go.
Woohoo.
So now we're going to hop into the news. We'll start with video game news, which I think I only have. There's only 6 items, but one of the items is the Nintendo Indie World presentation. So it has like 10 sub items. But we'll go through those pretty quick. So a few items from video games, 3 or 4 from board games, so not too bad, and then we'll get into our ending segment. So let's just hop in for video game news this week. Number 1, we still have more free games to talk about. I don't know if this number 1 will ever change, but these ones this week are from Xbox Game Pass, first off. And so if you have Game Pass coming out either now or in the next few days, I think between the 16th and the 30th is when these games will come out. And the order I have them in is the order they come out in. So the first 3 are out as of the time of this podcast airing. And the other 4 come out later next week. Okay, number 1 is Harold Halibut, which is available on cloud, PC, and on Xbox Series. That one does look pretty cool. It has a kind of an interesting sci-fi vibe. Orcs Must Die 3 on cloud, console, and PC on the 17th, which was yesterday. Tomorrow, for those of us... no, that's today, actually, from when we filmed. EA Sports NHL 24 is only on console, but that is will be available on the 18th. Ayuden Chronicle 100 Heroes is on cloud, console, and PC on the 23rd. Another Crab's Treasure. This is an interesting looking one. They claim that it is a Souls-like game with accessible Souls-like combat. You play as a little crab, and you're basically fighting these other boss crabs and stuff. Looks kind of cool. And I think that there need to be more accessible versions of that genre, because a lot of them are not. So that's a cool one. Don't know if it's good, but it looks cool. That one's on cloud, console, and PC on the 25th. Manor Lords is in game preview. They kind of released some early access things over there, which is kind of cool. I think this might be the third or fourth game preview that Xbox Game Pass has had. That's on the 26th for PC. And Have a Nice Death is on cloud, console, and PC on the 30th. I've played Have a Nice Death. It's a very fun kind of roguelite action game, similar to something like Dead Cells. Has a lot cooler art style, in my opinion, than some of them. I think it's hand-drawn, maybe. You play as Death, and you have to go through this, like... They've kind of made death and people dying kind of look like this corporate structure. So, like, the devil is, like, one of the CEOs, or one of the C-suite executives, and you're the CEO as the person playing Death, and so you kind of have to fight through that corporate structure as Death. It's kind of fun. So that is the games on Game Pass. Check those out if you have Game Pass on console or PC. And then on the Epic Store, they always have a free game every week, and this week they have 2. The first one was called The Big Con, and it's the special Grift of the Year edition. This game I thought looked kind of interesting. I think it's a kind of an adventure game, kind of in similar vibes to something like Night in the Woods. It seems like you're kind of sneaking around, and it said to save your family, you have to go and con kind of this evil corporation or something. I liked the art. The colors were kind of cool looking, so check that one out. And the next one is called Town of Salem 2. I thought it looked a little less interesting, but it looked kind of like a isometric top-down kind of action game where you have to, I don't know, you're fighting in the town of Salem and have to do some stuff. I'm not exactly sure.
How long are these games free?
They're free for 1 week.
Oh, so since I didn't download Ghost Runner last week, I can no longer get it for free.
That is correct.
Lovely.
Yeah, you got to add them to your library during the week. They're free. I think Ghost Runner has been free a couple of times, so they do recirculate them every once in a while. And you could always sign into my account if you wanted to play that really bad. But add those to your libraries. The Game Pass ones are different because they'll be in Game Pass for some period of time and then leave. And when they leave no matter what, even if you had downloaded them or played them. But some, like the PlayStation Plus Essential and the Epic Game Store ones, you add them to your library. I believe you own them forever. So, anyways, those are the free games for this week. Number 2 is a big one. So I'm going to do a bit of reading here, then we can talk about this. But PlayStation has hit a huge PlayStation 5 Pro leak with a copyright strike, which basically confirms that it's real. The leak stemmed from a YouTube video from Moore's Law is Dead, who talks about tech and is very well informed on consoles and, you know, the chip production in China and that kind of thing. And The Verge. There's kind of a lot here, but Push Square summarized it really well, and so I'm going to quote them here for a minute. And they said, quote, "According to this latest leak, which largely overlaps with previous reports, Sony is set to focus on ray tracing and potentially significant graphical enhancements with the PS5 Pro. A more powerful GPU is again being touted the biggest upgrade, making the system far more capable when it comes to implementing often demanding visual enhancements like ray tracing. Documents obtained by The Verge say that the GPU is about 45% faster than the standard PS5. The Pro is also described as a high-end version of PS5 by Sony, and as you'd expect, it won't outright replace the standard console, acting as a premium option for the more hardcore crowd. Meanwhile, as was already rumored, the system's CPU is the same as what you'll find in the standard PS5. However, a high CPU frequency mode, which can be toggled on and off by the user, allows the CPU to be clocked at a higher frequency. In other words, you can tell the Pro to dedicate more power to the CPU at the expense of roughly 1% lower performance on the GPU side of things. And to top it all off, the PS5 Pro will apparently give developers more system memory to play around with. It's a 28% increase, maybe more, since the Pro's memory usage is more efficient, from 448 gigabytes per second on PS5 to 576 gigabytes per second on PS5 Pro. Sony believes that these enhancements will tie into its PSSR, which stands for PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution technology, which can reportedly provide huge bumps in resolution through upscaling. End of quote. All right, lots of things we could pull on here. Devin, are you a pro console buyer? Are you tempted by that kind of thing? Did you have a PS4 Pro?
I currently have a PS4 Pro, but I don't know why I bought it. Honestly, I think that it was just the best of the PS4s to be out at the moment. And I had the money and I was like, oh, I just want the best one. I think maybe it was it a GPU upgrade on the PS4 as well? But it was lacking on like the CPU side or something. So you really didn't get this 100 and something percentage increase because it was bottlenecked in the CPU potentially. I feel like I've read something about this. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that was maybe true, but I think more games did successfully like hit 1440 60 frames or even 4K 60 on the Pro than on the regular PS4. And I think on the Pro, a lot of games ran at 60 frames that couldn't on the base PS4, like Horizon, I think, was bumped up to 60 frames, and Days Gone and a few other games on the PS4 Pro version. So yeah, I think there was definitely a boost. I just don't know how big it was.
Yeah. Yeah, it's intriguing to me. For sure.
Yeah, it is intriguing to me too. I don't know. I'm kind of two minds of this. I love new shiny technology and toys. At the same time, having just gotten the ROG Ally a month or two ago, I think I found that I might care a little less about graphical perfection than I thought. And things like the convenience factor of games being portable is more important to me than it always hitting 60 or always being 1440 or 4K. So I don't know. I'm a little stuck with knowing what my thoughts are here. It does sound like a lot of cool tech. That ability to toggle on and off that CPU being clocked higher sounds really fancy. And I know that they are really there's been a lot of leaks about this PSSR technology, which I think is kind of PlayStation's proprietary version of DLSS, which I forget what it stands for now that
I should know this. I've adjusted it so many times.
It's something super sampling. Like machine learning data. The super sampling, I don't remember.
Is this the thing that takes your resolution, lowers it down, let's say 10 to 30 something percent, and then upscales it using some, I don't know the word, but basically takes it, lowers the resolution, raises it back up with their own special sauce here, and it's supposed to give you a really good picture, but more frame rate?
Yeah, I think it's similar to that. I don't think in this case it's lowering it. It's basically the game can, maybe run at 1080 or run at 1440, which is a lot easier for the PlayStation to output. But then the upscaling is done kind of through this kind of artificial intelligence technology.
I see.
To bump the resolution up, even though the PlayStation didn't have to process all of that itself. So I think that's really cool tech. I do use something like that on my Ally to make games seem a bit crisper than I know it's actually running them. And so I think that tech is really cool. I'm a little worried about what this thing might cost. Sony's been really kind of stringent with their sales and kind of nickel and diming people. $10 upgrade for God of War or whatever if you want to play the PS5 version and bought the PS4 version. So I don't know what they'll price this at. The PlayStation 5's $500 or $450, I think, if you get the digital version. That's the new model that has that kind of slit through the side. And so I don't know. This thing's supposed to come out this fall is the rumor. And I feel like the PlayStation 5 needs a price cut. If it was me, I wouldn't want this Pro to cost much more than $500. But I know some people, including this Moore's Law is Dead kind of expert, I think his name's Tom. I think he was even saying that he could see something with these specs costing, $600. And I think that's a lot of money for a video games console. But I don't know. People pay that kind of money all the time. The inflation's crazy, even at the corporate level. So they probably want to make more money off of each of these units as well. Just like they've raised game prices to $70, and that probably won't be the last time they raise prices either. So I don't know. There's kind of a lot going on here. But if by some miracle they dropped the price of the standard base PS5 to $400 and slotted this in at 500 or something, maybe 550, I think that'd be kind of a sweet spot for something like this. And then I might be interested. If it's like $600-700, then I'm just not really interested. I didn't get a PS4 Pro. I just played, with the kind of stinky base PS4 for the remainder of that generation till the PlayStation 5 came out, and I would just ride out the PlayStation 5 the same way unless it's really intriguing. And even if it is intriguing, I'll probably still wait for some bundle, because right now you can get if you're careful with where you look, you can get a PS4, the digital version, with a copy of Spider-Man 2 for around $400, which is a pretty good deal. So if you wait for some deals on this Pro model, maybe we could get it down cheaper, around $450 or something. And then I might just impulse buy it on Amazon one day. I mean, who knows? But I don't know. The price is what's worrying me a bit, with Sony kind of in the kind of driver's seat as far as their competitors go. They're kind of crushing Xbox this generation, and I think they're more willing to price their stuff as no, we're the premium version. We're the Apple of high-end consoles, and you're going to pay for it if you want to play over here. Kind of seems like their attitude lately. So we'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if it cost $600.
Does it come in black?
Oh, Bruce Wayne wants to know.
Yes, sir.
We'll see. Yeah.
I hope so.
My guess is it'll come in white, and then they'll sell you the black base plates, which is what they currently do.
Probably.
That way your $600 PlayStation 5 can be $645. Yeah, black would be really nice.
I agree.
I do like black entertainment boxes. Anyway, so we'll see. I think they're going to announce that pretty imminently, since it sounds like they're having to communicate so much with different developers and publishers like EA and Activision, because they're telling them, hey, this thing's coming out, we need you to prep your games for it, release patches that will let things run better. So much of this stuff's going to continue leaking, and unless they just say something. All right, well, that's PS5 Pro. We'll see what they announce and what it inevitably costs. Next one is also PlayStation related. The PC version of Ghost of Tsushima is coming out in May. And on the PlayStation blog, they kind of explain some of the features coming to that. It supports a lot of the things you'd expect, like ultra-wide monitors and super high resolutions. But a new thing they mentioned is they're going to have a PlayStation overlay that if you're playing on PC, I think you can open with, it was either Windows F1 or Shift F1, kind of a keyboard shortcut to open this overlay that will show you your PlayStation Network friends and your PlayStation Network trophies. So you'll be able to earn trophies on PlayStation's PC versions. They said this is the first game that will support it, but it sounds like it's going to be something that they will put in their PC versions of their games going forward. And I know this has been a big deal. I am someone who loves trophies, even though it's just like a little digital badge of honor that, I have the platinum trophy for MotorStorm RC on the PlayStation Vita. I really like that for some reason. Gamifying video games, But if you like trophies and play on PC and have wanted to play some PC games like Ghost of Tsushima and others that they'll release, I wonder if they'll patch this in for Horizon and The Last of Us and God of War and the other games that came to PC earlier. I'm guessing they will, but anyways, you can now earn trophies over there. Well, not now, when the game comes out on May 16th. All right, number 4 is the big one. Nintendo had a new Indie World presentation. It was today. And these are some of the games that I think I listed here every game that they announced. Some of them I'm just going to read very briefly. Some other ones that I thought looked more interesting, maybe we'll hit on for just a second. Some of these are also coming to PlayStation and other platforms. Some of them it was a little bit difficult to tell because in these platform holders kind of conferences like this, they don't, Nintendo doesn't say this is coming to Switch and the Xbox and the PlayStation. They just say coming to Nintendo Switch on this day. And so until, Sony also says, yeah, it's coming to PlayStation, it can be hard to know sometimes, or if the development team says, yeah, it's coming everywhere. But all of these are coming to the Switch, and some of them will be coming to PlayStation and other platforms. First one, I know Devin is so interested in this. It's called Little Kitty, Big City.
Favorite game.
Coming out on May 9th. Kind of looks like a similar vibe to that Goose game where you run around as a goose and kind of bug people. But you're as a cat and you run around this little city doing mischief. That's all I saw about it. Kind of cute art, but I don't think it's a game for me. Next one was Yars. I don't know if it's Yars or Yars, but Yars Rising is coming out this year. It's a Metroidvania game from Atari and Way Forward. Anytime I hear Metroidvania, I get interested, but I have high expectations for that genre. So we'll see if they can hit it. Way Forward is a good developer. They make good 2D games, so I'll be watching to see if that's one that I want to play. Next one is called Refined Self, the personality test game. Coming out this summer. Looked very interesting, kind of odd. You play as this kind of 2D character that has this kind of twisty mechanism on their back, and I guess you make decisions and it kind of tells you what your personality is like. Again, I don't think that one's for me. Next one, Sticky Business on the 17th of August. And on this one, you're running a sticker shop. So you're designing your own stickers and then selling them at your shop to make money. I'm also kind of picky with games like this where you run a shop. Talked about Dave the Diver earlier, and I liked that one's loop. Some of these shop games, I'm like, I don't want to run the shop. So we'll see. The art was at least really good looking. Next one, Anton Blast on November 12th. It was a very retro looking platformer with a strange looking main character that can kind of pummel through enemies. Check that out if you're so inclined. Next up was Valley Peaks. It's a first person climbing game where you climb as a frog, kind of with these stretchy arms and maybe even your tongue. I couldn't really tell. Looked interesting. Comes out this year. Gave me kind of vibes of this other indie game that I really liked called A Short Hike. That one was not first person though. That one was just top down kind of view of a bird kind of making a hike to the top of a mountain. Really fun game if you want to, a game you can finish in 2 hours, but feel like that was fun. So yeah, Valley Peaks. Next one is Lorelei and the Laser Eyes. Comes out on May 16th. It's a puzzle game from a pretty well-known puzzle developer. They made a game for iOS called Device 6, and then they made Sayonara Wild Hearts, which I haven't played, but I think quite a few people liked it. I think the company is called Simogo. I love puzzle games. This one has the cool thing about their studios, they make all their games with like a very different art vibe. This one kind of has a cool kind of, I don't even know how to explain it, noir kind of cyberpunk kind of vibe it looked like. So I don't know, if that reviews well, it might be something I'll check out. That's the 16th of May, day before my birthday, so if it's good I will treat myself. Next one was called Europa, comes out this year, and it was a 3D platformer. It looks like it's mainly based around platforming, not combat or anything like that. There were a lot of, like, you could see I need to get up to the top of this tree and then glide with this column of wind to another section to grab a collectible or something. The art was really pretty in the game. That was the thing that stood out. It kind of, I saw some people online saying it has a Studio Ghibli vibe, and I could see that. The art kind of looked that way. Hopefully the gameplay can match as well. Next one was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Splintered Fate comes out in July. It's a roguelike kind of isometric camera angle brawler. And I really like Ninja Turtles. The game that came out, man, I don't remember when, last summer now? Shredder's Revenge, I think is what it was called. That one was super solid. This one's a bit different, being a roguelike and being kind of a little more top-down than a traditional brawler. I like the idea, though. I think it's coming from mobile, from iOS and Android, so I hope that it's one of the better games from those shops and not one of the not better, crappier games from those shops. Important question here, though. I wanted to ask Devin, who is the best Ninja Turtle?
Oh man, I think most people are going to say Michelangelo, but I disagree. I think Donatello is super cool. I like how he's like geeky and his long staff. I mean, just to master a staff, fighting with a staff seems super cool, but it's also hard for me to not like Leonardo. Like double sword wielding.
And like the good guy, always wants to do the right thing.
Yeah, he's super cool. I'm going to go with Donatello.
Yeah, that's funny. He's actually my favorite as well. I think him and Michelangelo are like a funny comedic vibe to the show, but Michelangelo is just a little too much comedy, even though I like his nunchucks.
Yeah.
Donatello strikes a good balance, and I don't think the staff gets enough credit. I think it's pretty sweet. And that new Ninja Turtles movie, did you ever see that one that kind of has the same art style as the Into the Spider-Verse Spider-Man shows?
Yes. It was honestly super good. I think a Ninja Turtle should wield a shovel. I'm going to die on this hill. They need to come out with a game where you can use a shovel. Lies of P did have a shovel head, which made me very happy. But I just think it's a funny weapon. I'm all about it.
You need to play Shovel Knight then.
How old is that?
Oh, it's pretty old. Well, I mean, when I say pretty old, I think it came out in like 2011.
Is it a 2D
12.
game?
Yeah, it's very much inspired by like Mega Man kind of vibes, but your character is a knight that has a shovel, not a blaster arm. Yeah, very fun. You should play that one time. Yeah, anyways, that Ninja Turtle game looks pretty good. I hope you can play as Casey Jones. He's also cool. Got that cool hockey mask. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see if that Ninja Turtles game is good. My hopes are not super high, but I think it could be cool. I like roguelike games, so I'm hopeful. Even though I just said my hopes are not super high. Either way, we'll see what happens. Next one, Cat Quest 3 on August 8th. Cat Quest, I have 1 and 2, and I've played probably an hour of each, and they're just kind of silly and kind of fun. Very simple kind of RPG where you run around as a cat, smack bad guys, and upgrade your weapons and stuff so that you do more damage to the next bad guys you smack. Fun to play in co-op with kids. This third one, it looks like it's got a new mechanic where you're kind of fighting in this pirate themed area. I think they're called purr-rits because of cat's purr, but anyways, you fight in your pirate ships as well, so you can sail your ship on the water and shoot cannonballs and stuff. So if you like Cat Quest, look out for that one in August. Next one was a Shadow Drop, came out today. That was Stitch, and it's a puzzle game about embroidery on kind of a grid. So you have to fill in. It's kind of like a paint by numbers kind of vibe. In the trailer, they showed a penguin, and the penguin isn't like stitched together yet, and there are different segments of the penguin, and there will be numbers like along the segments that say, okay, I need to do brown and 4 brown from this certain spot. So you have to puzzle together which colors will complete that kind of grid puzzle you're looking at, and then once you're done with the puzzle, it will make a shape of something. Could be cool. Kind of gave me similar vibes to, what are they called? Oh, it's right on the tip of my tongue. The games with the grid where it makes an image as well, and it's kind of similar to Sudoku. There'll be a certain number of filled in squares in a column or row and a certain number of empty ones. Wow, this is killing me that I can't remember it. It'll come back to me before the show's over. But
I was going to say, I have no idea.
That's all right. All right, next one was called Bzzzt, and it's coming out in summer 2024. And to be honest, this was probably my favorite of the ones that I saw. Very retro-looking 2D platformer, cool kind of chiptune music, and some of the levels you were flying in a spaceship, so they kind of changed from a 2D platformer to a shmup, is what they call it, where you're in kind of a spaceship shooting to the right, and then enemy ships will fly in from the right to try and kill you. Looks very much inspired by Mega Man, but it didn't look like your character has like a weapon to attack back. It looks like it's mostly platforming, and then I guess you can shoot in those shmup levels instead of the platforming levels. So I thought that one looked cool. That's Bzzzt. Fun name to say. Next one I don't know how to pronounce is called Shim. It's out on July 18th, and it is a casual puzzle game about jumping from shadow to shadow as a shadow kind of tadpole looking thing. I thought the trailer for this was really cool. Kind of gave me What the Golf vibes. And yeah, you're just this tiny little shadow tadpole, and you have to jump from shadow to shadow to, I guess, get to different places to finish levels. One of the examples they gave was you're chilling in the shadow of a golf ball, and this guy hits the golf ball, and so it's flying over the fairway. And I think as it's flying, you have to like jump out of the shadow of the golf ball and land in the shadow of something else. I don't remember what it was, a tree or a rabbit or something. So it's all about kind of hopping around in shadows. Art was really cool as well. So that one's in July. Next one is called Animal Well. It comes out on May 9th. We talked about this one last week because it's coming to PS Plus Extra on May 9th, the day it launches. And it kind of gave me Sound Shape vibes, where you play as this little ball character moving around to different kind of scenes. And in different scenes, there might be an animal that you have to avoid or help, and different puzzles on the screen. I really liked Sound Shapes back in the day. This is a little different. I don't think it's music based like Sound Shapes was, but I like the art, and I like weird indie games, so I'm definitely going to try this one out for free on May 9th when it comes to PlayStation Plus. The next few we can go through, well, not super quick, because a couple of them I want to talk about, but Duck Detective, The Secret Salami was the next one.
Ooh.
Thought it looked okay. Comes out on May 23rd. You play as a duck detective, probably trying to discover something about some salami. Next one we already mentioned because it's coming to Game Pass, but this was Another Crab's Treasure, which is coming to Switch on April 25th. And this is the one where you play as a crab, as the approachable Souls-like crab combat. Okay, last couple, and SteamWorld Heist 2 is coming out August 8th. I really like the SteamWorld games. SteamWorld Dig and SteamWorld Dig 2 are super, super fun. I have SteamWorld Heist, but I haven't played it yet. I am very picky with turn-based games, but I love the games that team has made so far, so I really want to play the first one before the second one comes out in August, just to see if it's something that might be up my alley. I know that a lot of people really like Heist, so excited to see that, and hopefully it will perform well for them. And then last one, I'm not sure if this was announced in the Nintendo stream, but it was listed in the same spot. Well, I don't know. Braid came out a long, long time ago, like 2007, and it's finally getting a kind of remastered, cleaned up version with a lot of different features, like commentary from Jonathan Blow. It was slightly delayed, I think just a few weeks, to May 14th. I'm excited to play Braid again. I haven't played Braid in probably 10 years. And Jonathan Blow's team's next game, The Witness, after Braid, is one of my very favorite puzzle games ever. So I'm excited to go back to Braid. And I know he was on a podcast recently and mentioned that they're going to be announcing their next game somewhat soon. So I'm super excited to know what they're doing next. I love a good puzzle game, and that team, man, they really... The Witness is so, like, good. It's, like, so enthralling, and, like, what a crazy... Like, the way that the puzzles, like, there are puzzles inside puzzles in that game. It's pretty incredible. The Witness is great if you haven't played that. This bullet point was not about The Witness, though. It's about Braid. Comes out May 14th. All right, that's everything from the Nintendo showcase. I guess showcase isn't the right word. Nintendo's Indie World presentation. Number 5, very simple one here. Shadow in Sonic 3 is going to be voiced by Keanu Reeves. So there you go. We got Idris Elba as Knuckles. We got Keanu Reeves as Shadow. And then I forget his name, but the funny guy from Parks and Rec plays Jean-Ralphio as Sonic. And then you got James Marsden in there as like Sonic's kind of adopted dad. Lots of big names. And Jim Carrey, as Dr. Eggman. Lots of big names in these Sonic movies. Have you seen Sonic and or Sonic 2, Devin?
I thought there was only one out, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, they're not exactly like high tier entertainment in my opinion.
Which one ends
kind of fun.
where they're playing baseball at the end?
I think that's the second one because Tails is in it, right?
Yeah, and Sonic turns like gold for a moment or something.
That's the second one. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I actually think I've seen them both.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed them. Maybe they're not
they're kind
perfect,
of fun
but
in like a dumb, silly way.
Yeah.
And having some big name actors in them is fun. Yeah, I don't know. They're fun. My kids really like them. Sonic has kind of had a resurgence. My kids have Sonic the Hedgehog socks. I mean, Sonic is kind of a big deal to them. So I'm sure we will go see that in the movie theater. So I guess I'm glad I'll get to hear Idris Elba and Keanu Reeves.
Amazing.
Play Shadow. Last one. Had to put this in here. Just to forever wish and will this game into existence. Silksong was rated in Australia after a few weeks ago. We reported, well, we didn't report. We reported on our show that something that had already been reported that it had been rated in North Korea, I believe. Maybe it was South Korea. It's getting close. So very excited about that. All right, that is all the video game news. Some fun stuff there, though. The next one is not video game news. It's in the board game news section. But it doesn't seem like it so much. Well, it is. Rayman. I like Rayman. Rayman games are a lot of fun. Rayman's getting a new game, but it's not a video game. It is a board game. They haven't shown much other than a picture of a very large box. I was actually surprised. Games that come in a box that big are generally very complicated dungeon crawler games, like something like Gloomhaven, or I don't know, maybe the box isn't as big as it looks in the picture, but it looks really big in the picture. And there are a couple miniatures, one of Rayman and one of his friend that I can't remember the name of. The game looks cool from the art in the box. They haven't revealed much else other than that the game is being designed by Maxime Tardif. Hope I pronounced that right. And they designed Earth, which is one of the most, well-loved and critically successful games of the last couple of years. I have Earth on my shelf back here. It's off camera, so you can't see it. But Earth is great. And so I'm excited that it's at least coming from a really good designer. But it does sound like it might be a cooperative game, which is a little bit of a bummer to me. So let's, this is the quote they had on the site. Quote, discover Rayman like never before in an all-new board game adventure. Team up with your favorite heroes in an epic race, dodging dangers and saving the teensies. Designed by the acclaimed Maxime Tardif and Flyos? Don't know how to pronounce the publisher's name. The game promises thrilling action for 2 to 5 players ages 7 to 77. Become a legend in the Glade of Dreams and be ready for the launch in Q3 2024. I don't know why the upper limit there is 77. Very specific, but
very strange.
I guess we won't be able to play it with Grandma and Grandpa.
Ah, darn it.
Have you ever played one of the Rayman games, Devin? Either the very old ones or either of the new ones?
I'm going to go with a solid no. The only thing I know about Rayman is that you can teeter-totter a cow with a fridge at one point in one of the games. I'm pretty sure.
That sounds possible. I don't remember this moment, but...
Yeah, I don't think I've played any.
Okay. I remember playing, I think, Rayman 2 forever ago, but only a couple stages. I think it was at a friend's house. But Rayman Origins, I have the platinum for that on my Vita. That was a great game. And Rayman Legends is also super great. I didn't play quite as much of that one, but very beautiful art and pretty simple games. Kind of give kind of a faster, like Mario, 2D Mario vibe with different art. But yeah, very fun running through levels and kicking villains, and the villains kind of turn in when you hit them. They inflate like a balloon, which is kind of silly but kind of fun. So I don't know. I hope that board game can be good. I kind of hope it's not cooperative, but we'll see. That is Rayman Q3 2024. Number 2, last week the episode was called Gotta Buy 'Em All, because we talked a bit about trading card games, about the great number of them. And I even talked about Marvel Snap in this episode, which is kind of a trading card game, even though it's a digital version. A couple bits of news from that. First off, make sure to check out my Marvel Snap video that we already mentioned. It's on Patreon now. And the second one, Ravensburger North America's CEO. Ravensburger is who makes Disney Lorcana, which we've mentioned a couple times in recent weeks. He made a statement recently that makes it sound like even more trading card games will be on the way in the industry, not just from Ravensburger. Quote, "It's hard to count the number of players who have told us that Disney Lorcana trading card game has given them a chance to share their love of the hobby with their families, or how it's brought a number of new faces to organize play events," he told ICV2. I don't know what that is, but some news outlet, I imagine. "We believe and have heard from our partners and players that Disney Lorcana has grown the size of the trading card game pie as opposed to taking a piece of it." End quote. We talked a couple weeks ago about how there's a new expansion with Ursula and some Encanto characters coming in I think May, actually. My memory's not super, but I think it was May. But yeah, I hope that there's not too many new trading card games. I think there is place for a few, but with this one and the Star Wars one that also just came out late last year, I believe, it seems like we're kind of hitting a critical mass where I don't know if there's enough to go around. It seems like, kind of reminds me of when Fortnite and PUBG were taking off, and all of a sudden started making so much money that every other company was like, we need a battle royale now. And so we're going to turn Halo into one, and it's going to have a battle royale mode. And so it's Call of Duty, and Call of Duty's is now humongous as well. And lots of other companies tried, but so many of them didn't do anything. And teams had to be let go and games canceled because everyone was chasing after this kind of battle royale money. So I hope that this doesn't kind of go to that point with trading card games, because I think we're at kind of a good point here, and I think too many more would result in not all of them being able to be successful, even though the CEO here thinks that he's made the pie bigger as opposed to taking a piece out of it. So I don't know. We'll see how that goes this year. But it did lead Ravensburger to some great profits last year. I think they were up like 12% from 2022 to 2023. So I know that they're loving it over there in corporate Ravensburger. All right. Last one in board games is number 3. A live action movie is being made about one of the most popular board games of all time. It's very early in discussion still, but it sounds like they have signed an agreement, and Monopoly will be spearheaded by Lucky Chap, which is a production company owned by Margot Robbie. And I don't know a lot more about it. I think that is a different team than who did like Barbie, but I'm guessing that they're hoping to do a similar thing kind of with the Monopoly movie. My hope is that it can be more similar to something like the Tetris movie, which seemed to be a little more focused on historical accuracy, even though I think it did have, a little bit of comedy and that kind of thing in there. But a movie about how Monopoly was invented and kind of what led up to that, I think would be cool. But if they turn Monopoly into Barbie and have singing Monopoly pieces, I think that'd be less cool. So anyways, we'll see. Not a huge fan of the board game Monopoly, but it definitely was influential and we played it a lot growing up.
Yeah,
remember a lot
sure.
of those pieces. I don't remember ever finishing a game, but having some fun with it. So we'll see. Maybe the Monopoly movie will be a godsend and we'll love it. But probably won't know for a couple years. All right, that is the board game news for today. So, to wrap up our show, we are going to have our first couple of listener inquiries. If you want to write into the show, you can do so by joining us on Patreon. And the inquiries we have today were written by Potato. The first one he has here is, what do you consider normal rules for Uno when you play, and what are some bizarre rules that you've heard of? I'm kind of picky with board games I play. I usually play almost exclusively as the rules are written. Unless there is, on Board Game Geek, kind of the world's biggest board game database, some variant that the community has decided is better than the way it's written in the rulebook, I generally just follow the rulebook, because a lot of playtesting kind of goes into, board games. Lots and lots of playtesting. And so I don't feel like I'm generally smart enough to be giving, the teams of dozens of people advice on how their game should function. And even if I'm able to give them some idea of, hey, I think this might be better, then the person that designed the game might say, well, yeah, it might be better for you, but that's not the vision that we had for the game. So usually I play with rules exactly as they're written. So I usually play with the Uno rules exactly as they're written. I don't usually play Uno, but we'll get to that in a second. I have once played kind of a crazy version of Uno. It was at a family get-together, and it was a fun 20, 25 minutes. I don't remember every strange rule, but I remember that there was a certain number, maybe it was a certain color of card, and if it came out, then anyone could play on that card, not just the person whose turn it was. That was a little crazy. Wanted to get your cards out quick. And then the other rule that I can remember was, if a specific number came out, I think it was a 7, and everyone had to be quiet until something else happened. Maybe another 7 came out or something. And yeah, that was a crazy 20 minutes of Uno. I don't think I would choose to play like that again, but it was fun. We laughed and had a good time. Were you playing that day, Devin, when we did that?
I have no memory of this whatsoever.
Like Gandalf in Moria, you had no memory of this place.
Always trust your nose.
That's all right. You might not have been there. I don't remember. But yeah, always trust your nose about Uno and probably play the right way. But yeah, there's a lot of opinions on Uno. Like, should I be able to stack the +2 and the +4 cards? And yeah, I don't know. I think in the rulebook it says that you cannot, but I haven't read the Uno rulebook in a long time, so I don't fully know. I have a few recommendations. If you have liked Uno in the past, I've got a few board games here that I think are better than Uno for a few different reasons. Some of them might have just a little more depth than Uno. Some of them, I think, have a little less luck than Uno. And I just think all 4 of these games are better. So first one is called Push. It's an excellent game. The cards are very colorful and look like they could be Uno cards. Push is wonderful. It's a push your luck game where you're trying to stack cards in 3 stacks. Make 1 stack really good for yourself and make a couple other stacks really bad, because the players after you will have to take one of those stacks and then get the most points from those cards. Push is super good. Next one's really short. It's called My Gold Mine. And in that one, another push your luck game, you're trying to decide as a little dwarf if you're going to go farther down in a mine towards the end, but there's a dragon at the end, and on some turns a card will come up that will move the dragon from the end of the mine closer to the entrance. And so eventually you have to leave with all your gold, or else he'll burn you and you won't get any gold that round. And whoever has the most after 3 rounds wins. Both of those are great. Play in probably 20 minutes, similar time frame. Dragon Keepers is a really good one. This one's a little bit of a step up, just a tiny bit in complexity. Also can play in about 20, 30 minutes, and is also a card game. But I think it's a lot better of a game. A little less luck, but you're still paying attention to what everybody's doing on everybody's turns. Just came out last year. It's been super popular. Dragon Keepers is great. I don't think Devin's played that one yet.
I don't think so.
I think you have played Push and My Gold Mine. Mm-hmm. And then last one, if you like games like Hearts, those are called trick-taking games, where you're trying to win kind of the hand, which is called a trick, and then you might want to win certain numbers of tricks depending on the game. There's one called Cat in the Box, which is really fun. All of the cards are suitless. They're just black. And then when you play a card, you get to decide what suit it is, if it's going to be the red or the blue or the green suit. And that one's been very popular, especially with people that like card games. So I recommend those. If you were just going to look at one, I would say try Push. It's like $10-$12. And I think it's a lot better than Uno. So check that out. Great question, though, Potato. Play with the normal rules of Uno. Unless you want a crazy time, then look up some of those crazy rules where you can't talk and have to play cards before everybody else. But for me and my house, we're going to play Push, My Gold Mine, Dragon Keepers, and Cat in the Box generally. All right, so that was a good question. Potato had a second question that we're going to hit on really quick. It was, why do you think we go back to games we don't necessarily enjoy, like Rocket League? And I kind of have an answer for this, but I thought, Devin, I might let you answer it first, again, since I've been talking so much.
Why do we go back to games we don't necessarily enjoy? I think I tell myself I don't enjoy specific games, but deep down I know that I kind of do. Games can make us rage, and so we say that we hate them, but once again, deep down we really don't. Skill-based games where you can always get better at a game by putting a ton of time into it, like Rocket League, really intrigues me. It's endless. You're always wanting to be, better than your friends, I don't really care if I'm better than my friends, but that is an encouraging factor for some. And I guess my other answer to this would just be, games are not always the most fun playing alone. So if your friends are playing a game you don't enjoy, for example, I dislike Valorant, but a lot of my friends play Valorant. So I played Valorant for a week and then uninstalled it, but I did play it. So I play what my friends play when I'm looking to vibe with some people. And also laziness. Sometimes I'm just like, I'll just go play Rocket League again for the 73rd day in a row, and I don't want to try to find something new, or I don't want to pay for a new game. That would be my answer.
Yeah. Oh, I think those are great. Those are basically what I was going to say. I think the laziness, or kind of the Rocket League is comfort food kind of factor, is definitely there. Hopping into a new game is kind of a commitment. I don't love starting games if I'm not going to at least play like some significant portion of it. First of all, because I'm crazy and I don't want my trophy percentage to be super low. And second of all, I just think it's not super fun if I'm not, at least going to give a game like a fair shake.
Yeah.
So that is definitely true. Like sometimes it's just way more easy on the mind to, okay, I'm going to play a few matches of Rocket League, something I know I love, instead of, I'm going to start Layers of Fear, which I'm not sure if I'm going to enjoy or not. So I think that's part of it. The skill-based thing I think is very important too. This isn't really a game with like an ending, obviously. It's not like God of War Ragnarok, where once I'm done with it and I've seen what happens to Kratos and Atreus, I'm kind of over that world. Maybe that means that I'm kind of a story-based gamer in some instances, but yeah, I think a game that is almost completely gameplay driven, something like Rocket League, and I would even put something like Spelunky maybe in that category, where even though I've beaten the game dozens of times, it's so different from play to play. I don't care that I've beaten it. It's just kind of the gameplay and finding what new random configuration is going to be out this run is kind of the fun part. But I think those are really important. And I think the last thing about it, or thing that I would say, which you already said because you answered this very well, is just that grind of getting better. Makes me think of my poor Utah Jazz, who have been close to greatness a couple of times, but generally, we're in a small market and aren't ever going to get someone like Kevin Durant unless Danny Ainge can pull off some wizardry here with his 1,000 draft picks. We'll see. But there's always the hope that this is going to be the season. They're going to do it. They're going to go far in the playoffs, maybe get to the finals. And that's like a good feeling, like, okay, we're going to be better. We're going to excel and drive forward. And I like that feeling in Rocket League too. Winning a match or making a good shot just makes you want to play more. So I think that's why I come back to it. But I think, like you said, we think we don't like the game for a minute, but we really do. We just are upset that we aren't as good at it as we want to be.
Yeah, I agree. Also, I think for one of our next advance episodes, we should take the listeners through a little bit of Spelunky. You can kind of teach us about it. I know a bit about it and see how far we can get and how many times we can die. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I do too. I'll have to remember. I can't remember if the first Spelunky has online co-op, so we might have to play Spelunky too, but that's totally fine.
Works for me.
Game's also amazing. All right. Great questions, Potato. Thanks so much for writing in. Again, if you want to write into the show, patreon.com/supergamebrothers is where you can do that. For our closing segment today, after those inquiries, we're just going to talk about two kind of related to topics that we've talked about in the past, two shows and movies that we have watched recently. For example, I watched Dune 2 finally Monday night when it came out. Bought it on Amazon Prime. And I know, Devin, you've been watching the Fallout TV show, which is also on Prime. Well, Dune 2 isn't on Prime. I had to buy it, so I guess it's just on. I don't know if that's called Prime Video or Amazon Video at that point, but anyways, I'll talk first maybe. But Dune 2, super great. I think it's kind of the best of what sci-fi can be. Just like the highest level of like actors in the movie, just performing great. The writing is amazing, and every shot is just like very, very pretty and beautiful. So from like a technical and acting and cinematography angle, I think it's just like super, super high quality. The story, I haven't read the Dune book, so I don't know like how it's going to end or anything like that, or even how closely it follows the books. And maybe that would be a turnoff for some people if it didn't. But as someone who has only I've seen the original movie a long, long time ago, and then I've seen Dune Part 1 a few times, and now Dune Part 2 once, and it's super, super solid. It is definitely like some pretty nerdy sci-fi. You got to be prepped, and I think if you've seen the first Dune, you'll be prepped, but it even goes harder for sure. Now there's not one sandworm, there's a bunch, and people are riding them, and the main character has his special ability where he can control other people with his voice, and he might get more powerful, but he can only get powerful if he drinks a special blue liquid. And so very sci-fi in that way, where you just kind of got to roll with it because some of the things are weird and don't really make sense. And I would say it's more that way than the first one, where the first one was kind of setting up the world like, hey, here's these different kind of nations that live on different planets. And this one, it's got the main character's dad in it, and they're going to have like a cool family moment. And this other one is like these weird bad guys, and that makes sense. There's a villain in a show, so that makes sense. Yeah, and then they attack, and that was really the end of the first movie. And so yeah, it just kind of goes harder and is bigger, more crazy. And I don't want to spoil anything on the show for sure, but very, very cool. Very, very good. If you've seen the first movie, I think it's better in basically every way. And I'm just excited to see how it wraps up. I think they've announced it's going to be a trilogy, so I think they're going to end after the third one if they don't get that tingle in their corporate pockets to make 4 more after that, but we'll see. I really like the direction. Denis Villeneuve, I think is his name. He's one of my favorite movie directors. He's directed Arrival, which was that one about the aliens with the actress whose name is going to Amy Adams, I think. That one's really a good movie as well. He also directed one of my favorite movies. It's called Prisoners. It has Hugh Jackman in it, and his daughter gets kidnapped, and so it's about him trying to find his daughter.
Jake Gyllenhaal is in that, is he not?
He is. Yep, he's the detective trying to help out. Great movie, and he's just a great director. Frame shots really well. Just had beautiful, beautiful direction. And I think he also directed the new Blade Runner 2049 or whatever it was called. I haven't seen that one, but anyways, directed by him. Beautiful, beautiful. Just visuals. And just kind of like the highest tier of special effects too. Looks really good. I do wish that, and I don't know, this is also Warner Brothers, I think, who did the Lord of the Rings, like 20 years ago. And I really wish they had adapted the same approach where with Lord of the Rings, they sent them all to New Zealand and said, okay, we're going to go big with this project. We're going to film it all now. Like all in one. Like you guys are going to be here for a year, all the actors, but we're going to film it now. And we might have some pickups later where we have to refilm a scene or whatever, but we're filming all 3 movies now. All 3 movies are going to be 4.5 hours long, and then we'll cut them down to 2.5 for the theatrical versions. And it's going to cost, I don't even know what it costs, $300 million, but we believe so much in this idea that we're going to do it. And then the movies are going to come out every Christmas for the next 3 years. Boom, boom, boom. Man, I wish that the movie studios would do something like daring like that again. Because even though like this movie is wonderful, it's just kind of a bummer to wait 3 years. And what if this movie hadn't done well? Then would they just not do the third part? I know there's money involved and they can't just always take big risks like that, but I feel like with a series like this that has Timothée Chalamet and Josh Brolin and Oscar Isaac and Zendaya and Rebecca Ferguson, and you could name like 20 other famous actors in it. I think they could have known beforehand that like, okay, this is going to pull everybody in. Let's just make the whole thing and release them in a 3-year span, because that would have been so cool.
That would be way
cool. It's like an event. Like every year we're going to go see the new Dune for the next 3 years. But even without that fantasy world scenario where we see them back to back like that, very, very cool. Very much recommend it. The only thing I'm not sure if I liked, and again, having not read the books, this might be my own fault. The main character, he's great. He acts great. I think he might be too powerful by the end of the movie. He kind of, again, won't spoil anything, but he becomes more powerful during the show. And yeah, by the end of the movie, I'm like, man, can anybody stop this guy? Like, is there going to be any conflict in the third movie? Obviously there will be. I'm not sure what it is, but he seems like a little OP. If he was a gun in Destiny, I think they'd nerf him. In update 2.0.
Yeah,
but
that's amazing.
I don't know. Dune 2 is great. You need to sign into my Prime Devin and watch it.
Oh, I'd love to.
But, yeah, do it. Make mom and dad watch it too.
Well, you're fantastic at describing your feelings and emotions toward a movie. Mine will be short and sweet. I don't know who directed Fallout. I don't know any of the actors' names. I'm going to be honest, I was doing other things while I was watching Fallout, so I should probably go back through it again. But the main character, she's super cute. She's super cool. I like her personality. Fallout gets really, really weird in some of the episodes. I've heard some people love it as it's like a very accurate representation of the games. Some are saying it's the best adaptation we've had making a movie after a game. I don't know enough about the games
very well
to testify of that myself, but I like the characters in it. Once again, love the aesthetic. It's very gory at times. Very, very strange.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that. That was like the first thing that somebody else mentioned to me was like, wow, it's surprisingly violent.
Mm-hmm.
Is it like consistently that way, or is it like just in some sporadic moments?
Once again, I fully
the
don't
games,
know, but it didn't seem like it was just excessive gore all the time.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, the games kind of are, right? In 3, you could like slow down time and focus on certain parts of the body and shoot off a guy's arm. And
yeah.
In 4, when some of the bugs you were shooting while you were streaming it were just kind of exploding.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you're shooting a creature. So I imagine it's probably somewhat similar to that.
Yeah. What stands out to me as well from it was the music that I already recognize from playing the game. I finished Fallout today, actually, the TV series. And I was like, oh, I heard this song in Fallout 76, actually, a couple days ago when I was streaming it. It does have some Easter eggs. On social media, I caught a few things of like, you're playing the game and it has all your stats. So you have like endurance, strength, charisma, that type of thing. They have like that exact Fallout 76 poster in the TV series in one of the scenes, and she kind of talks about her traits. So people have made actual characters in Fallout with her exact beginning traits and her strengths and weaknesses. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
But I recommend watching it, honestly. You can't go wrong watching that show. And all the episodes are out right now, which made me very happy. I didn't have to wait.
How long are the episodes? I think there's 8 of them, right?
The last one was
an hour
63
each?
minutes. I want to say they're easily between 40 minutes to an hour each, yes.
Okay. So about 7 hours-ish, maybe?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's not too bad. Yeah, I want to check it out, at least see if I like the first couple of episodes. Like you mentioned, I'm not huge into like Fallout's lore, so I might be a little bit lost, but I imagine it's pretty standalone and they explain things pretty well along the way. Just in case someone wanted to watch it without ever having played any of them.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, I've got some homework. I need to watch Fallout, and your homework, I guess, is to watch Dune, and we can circle back around to those next week. Just get some final thoughts the other way. Cool. Well, that is going to do it here for episode number 3. Thanks so much for tuning in today to the Super Game Brothers. Devin, do you have any other plans this evening, or is it just hit the hay for you?
It's hit the hay for me. But I would like to say thank you to anybody that listens to our podcast. It means a lot to us.
Yes, it really does. We appreciate it. And it's very new. We're still making mistakes. And just this week, I had a YouTube video that I recorded where the audio is like crazy delayed. And I think I found the setting, but it drove me nuts. So we're still figuring stuff out, but it's a lot of fun to, be here trying, and we'll see where it goes. But thanks again for tuning in to episode 3 here. We'll make sure to catch you on the next one. Make sure to check out Devin on Twitch. That's Player4 on weekdays. Please check out our videos on YouTube, on the Super Game Brothers YouTube channel, and check out Gaming Top Down, my board game YouTube channel, if you like board game stuff. And then we also have Gaming Top Down and Super Game Brothers Instagrams and TikToks, where we post kind of our short form content that also goes to the YouTube. So check us out on all the things. And if you, again, want to write into the show or get access to our shows early, make sure to check us out on Patreon. And without any further ado, I think we'll just get out of here and see you on the next one. So thanks again, and goodbye.
Farewell.